everyone and welcome back to Beyond the Apex. In today's episode we're in Mexico, so the Mexican Grand Prix, the second race of the last triple header of 2023.
Yep.
Let's get into the race. Red Bull.
Yeah, absolutely dominant race for Max. Look, it was a very, very eventful race, obviously with a red flag, 2 restarts, and Max kept his cool, absolutely demolished the second restart. Mexico is known for being a horrific restart for the person in pole, because there's just a massive drag race all the way down to the first corner, and somehow he managed to dominate that. There was no chance of anyone getting anywhere near him.
No one could battle him into that first corner. It was basically him and everyone else.
Yeah.
A massive, a dominant race from Max. But in terms of Checo,
it was a shame. Look, he saw in front of him the chance to lead his home Grand Prix, and any racing driver is going to take that. Unfortunately, he just squeezed Charles a little bit too much, went off, and the damage was just too much. So, unfortunate for him, he was having a much better weekend, so I'll give him that. His quality was very good, and he was doing a lot better than usual. It was just unlucky. But it was his fault.
It was his fault. We said this literally just a minute ago. He did turn in, into the first corner, so, there's not really much you can say. Charles, it wasn't Charles.
No, it wasn't. They were 3 wide. Charles had nowhere to go, neither did Max.
No.
Checo had the space. He could have went a little bit wider, and look, unfortunately, that's racing.
Absolutely. Most wins in the season.
Yes,
16.
Unbelievable from Max as well. That is a record that we never thought would be broken, and has just been smashed. Look, we've still got 3 races this season. What are the chances that Max wins them all? More than likely. So, look, he is absolutely smashing it this season. This will be his season that goes down in history, and it's just been put in the record books. That was his own record still, he's broken that again.
His own record at this point. We'll move on to Ferrari. Charles Leclerc, what a race.
What a race. He had damage from the start. I thought that would have been him done. And even with a broken wing, he managed to get a podium in that car, which, to be fair, it was probably the second quickest car, despite just Hamilton outperforming it. Look, they got a 1-2 in quali, something that we haven't seen in a while from Ferrari. And look, it was a big weekend because obviously Sainz got P4 as well. Huge points for the team in their battle with Mercedes. It's great to see Ferrari doing well for once.
It is. And did we talk about improvements last race weekend? But were they brought in this weekend?
So they were brought. I think the upgrades were solely for race pace and helping with tyre wear, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I believe they were upgrades this weekend. They were small ones, but they still evidently helped because their tyre wear was significantly helped. So they were able to extend that stint, which enabled them to kind of help in their fight with Mercedes.
Yeah,
so.
Definitely. And in that area of... Well, no, that's not even English. Lord, now we'll go on to Mercedes, is what I was trying to say. Lewis, what a stint at the end.
What a stint at the end. Look, when they put him on those medium tyres, he was complaining. He didn't think they were going to last, and he managed them to perfection. Look, I'm not a Lewis fan, neither of us are, but you've just got to look at greatness and just applaud it, because my god, what a stint. And that really showed that he is still the driver that he always has been. The car is just underperforming him right now, and look, when they give Lewis a car, he is going to perform like hell. And what a stint. I think he had a 7-second gap to Charles in the end, which was just on mediums, that should not have happened. The hards should have outperformed at the end, and what a race from Lewis. George did well, but obviously the quali pace simply wasn't there. But I do think if the quality pace was higher, a possible win could have been on.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. We'll talk about Alpine now.
Ocon must have been so annoyed staying behind that Haas. Obviously Nico was in the points for God knows how many laps. I think he held it on until 3 laps in the end when Ocon finally got past. Got a point. But honestly, if the Haas hadn't have held Ocon behind, Ocon might have got Albon. But look, still points, but quality pace needs a lot of work still. And
we did say this last week.
I think we're always saying it with Alpine. the quality paces let them down, as they do have a very good race car. But it's kind of the same with Merc. They don't have the quality pace at the moment to be able to be getting the top threshold of that car.
That's what I mean. That they can't put the potential of their race car properly to work
Absolutely.
by being like back further in the grid because of poor quality pace. So it is a shame, but
big shame.
What can you do?
What can you do
about McLaren?
Yes.
I mean,
what a race! What a race!
Can we just
from
talk about Lando Norris?
Let's talk about Lando Norris, because
I mean,
today it was 2 weeks ago, but it showed his class of driver. He is in that top echelon of drivers because, my God, was 17th to 5th. Obviously, he then went down to 10th on the red flag restart. Then, by the first corner, I think he was 15th on the red flag restart. And within 25 laps, had got himself up to P5. In a car that's actually really only third fastest this weekend. Third, fourth fastest. Unreal job. Obviously, he had one chance to get out of Q1. McLaren kind of screwed his strategy, but in quali. But still, he had one lap and he failed it, so he started 17th. Otherwise, a podium definitely would have been in the cars, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I mean, in comparison to Oscar, obviously they did the team orders in the race.
Yeah, which was a good call from the team, I think, because obviously he then got 2 more positions. You got Danny Rick and you got George. Yeah. 2 fantastic moves, by the way.
Yeah, they were brilliant.
Yeah. But it was still a good drive from Oscar. Obviously, he had the incident with Tsunoda, which was Tsunoda's fault. But it was a very, very good weekend for McLaren.
And like we said last week, that's so good to see but we're just getting so much closer to you getting that P1. I say you.
I need that. I need that win because honestly, Lando deserves it after this season.
He does.
Look, he's making that push for P4 in the drives as well. And from the start of this season, if you had told me that Lando would be finishing in P4 in the drivers, just behind Checo, Lewis, and Max, I would have bitten your arm off. Because that was just not on the cards. And look, he hasn't got it yet, but he looks on pace to, and that would just make my year.
I think it's ever since Silverstone, when I was messaging you and you were in Spain, and I was just like, I texted you, I said, Sam, this is going to go mayhem. This is going to you're going to go from down here to like front. And then Sam was like, no. I was like, no. And then the race happened and you were like,
oh my God.
Jaw on the floor.
Yeah, because I remember watching that just in the corner of this Spanish villa, and me just screaming my head off, getting P2 and P3 for quali in Silverstone. And one of the kids just coming up and going, kick again. I was like, no, Chico. I was just going absolutely mental, and I'm. From the start of this season to now, being a McLaren fan has been absolutely incredible. And I just hope and pray that we get to Bahrain and we actually have upgraded and not downgraded the car. Because that would mean that, do you know what? With Piastri and Lando, I think a shot at the Constructors is very much on next year.
I think so, definitely. And we'll move on to Alfa Romeo.
Very, very poor pace. Very poor pace. No quality pace. Race pace was horrific. They were the last of the runners, and it was it was a weekend to forget for Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, it's just a shame to see because they're not normally one of those teams where we're saying they're last. It's just a shame. Not a very good weekend at all.
And look, at the moment I think they're 8th unless AlphaTauri have overtaken them now, so they might be 9th. But look, they could be on to be last in this. At the moment, they are the only team where I'm kind of like, they won't score any more points unless it's in Vegas where they might get a shock result. But it is not going well for the end of the season for Alfa Romeo.
No, definitely not.
On to Aston Martin. 0 quality pace, so they just decided to use it as a test session again. And Stroll was quicker than Fernando, so clearly they are, because Stroll is never quicker than Fernando, so clearly something's working. So surely they're starting to understand the upgrades. Hopefully they can get a good result in Brazil, because they do deserve it after this kind of 2 weekend kind of slum that they've been in. Absolutely. Look, they need a good result in these last 3 races, because otherwise it is not looking good for them going into 2024.
No, it's not. But then also you could argue it is looking good going into it is looking good going into 2024 because of the upgrades that they're bringing, and they're testing in these 2 races as much as they're testing. It's leading to improvements.
Yes.
We might. I mean, I'm on a limb here, but we might be seeing improvements in 2024. We don't know.
Fingers crossed. And look, you are right, because testing is so scarce in F1 nowadays. And if they are just using these sessions as test beds, they are getting valuable race kind of testing of these upgrades. Yeah. Maybe they are just, they're just going, look, we've got P5 in the constructors, because obviously McLaren's gone now. Alpine's so far behind. Let's just use these races as a test bed and just understand these upgrades, because it's about we haven't seen this yet this season, about a team implementing upgrades and them not working and then having to understand them. We had it somewhat with Merck in Monaco, but look, if they can understand these upgrades, they could be onto a flyer, and fingers crossed, because I love seeing it. I love seeing Fernando at the top.
Yeah, I mean, seeing their rise at early of this season. It was just so good.
It was a marvel to watch.
Seeing Fernando come out on top, like you just said, it was just great to see, and I think everyone secretly likes.
Everyone loves Fernando, and look, I mean, at the start of the season, we were like, when is he going to get his win? Not if. When is he going to get his win? He nearly won in Monaco. If Alonso had won the Monaco Grand Prix, that would have been amazing. Yeah. But look, fingers crossed they can bring a great car for 2024, Definitely. And fingers crossed they can understand these upgrades.
Yeah. So we'll go on to Haas.
I think we saw the upgrades starting to work. Yeah. Obviously, they had time to get the setup. Nico was running in 10th for so long. Earlier in the season, their tyres would have went off a cliff, and they really didn't for Nico. Yeah. Obviously, he was still running worse tyres, so they were going to catch him eventually. But look, they held on to points until the final 5 laps, and this was a really promising race weekend for Haas.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like you said, the improvements were to do with that kind of element, and to see them improving in that kind of area. It is showing that maybe the improvements are working, and that's so good for them. Yeah, because we've not said very many positive things.
And look, I love seeing Haas doing well. It's very rare. Look, I go back to Bahrain 2022 when K-Mag got P5. It was just an unreal result. And obviously last year we had K-Mag pole in Brazil as well. But look. That's a nice segue onto Kevin, who had a huge crash. Thank God he's okay. Obviously, it wasn't his fault. He had a rear left suspension failure. Thank God he's okay. But I mean, that's pretty much it for Haas. Going on to AlphaTauri. Oh my God, what a result for Danny Rick. I mean, look, I'm not the biggest Danny Rick fan. I think everyone knows this. Obviously, he kind of cost McLaren a lot of money, both in constructors' results and what he did for the team. But look, I think we definitely saw the old Danny Rick back.
Yeah, I think so, and it was so good to see. I mean, incredible qualifying.
Oh my God, he was outpacing Checo in every single session in an AlphaTauri. Like, what is going on?
No, and that's really bad on Checo, isn't it?
Oh shit! In a home Grand Prix weekend as well. Apparently, he's been prepping for this weekend for months, and to be outpaced by Danny Rick, his potential contender for his seat. Jesus, hell.
It's not looking good.
It's not. No, it's not looking good for Checo. I mean, Christian Horner has promised Checo that he's keeping his seat, but there's something. They were promising De Vries was keeping his seat as well, and that clearly went wrong. So who knows what could happen going into 2024.
But Yuki.
He had great pace. But it was a silly mistake. It was his fault. He didn't leave Piastri enough room, and he cost the team a lot of points there. And possibly, if we're talking about the broad kind of view here, he could have just cost his team P7 in the constructors, because he was on for P7, so that's 6 points. 6 points could be the difference between P7 and P8, and he could have just cost his team 10 million there, and look, that's a Yuki crash. Obviously, he complained at Piastri, but it was Yuki's fault.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll go on to Williams on that note.
I mean, Albon in the points, it seems normal now.
Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, we've seen a great improvement from him across the whole season.
Absolutely.
And it's not if, it's when now. He's in the points.
Yeah, and look, he strode away from the Haas as well. It wasn't like he was 5 seconds ahead. I think he was like 10, 15 seconds away from that Haas in the end, which does really show the pace of that Williams. And quali really let him down, because otherwise that could have been one hell of a result.
Absolutely.
Because obviously, and as well, we saw, I think it was FP1 and FP3. Albon was like P3.
Yeah.
Like that Williams had solid pace this weekend. And look, it is a battle for P7 in the constructors, and look, it's going to be tight towards the end of the season, so I can't wait to watch that.
It's going to be good. But in terms of Sargent, I mean, poor, and it's a shame, because like we said actually last podcasts about being critical of him, but yeah, he retired on the final few laps.
He retired in the final few laps. Poor pace throughout the entire weekend, and it was just kind of a classic Sargent weekend.
Yeah, it was, and that is a shame. But yeah, not much else to say. So that is it for Mexico.
On to Brazil next weekend.
On to Brazil. Oh. And yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.